So there are essentially three key elements that enable an autocracy to form and keep it stable. Think of them as sort of three legs to the stool. Without those three legs, there's no way the stool can stand. It relies on all three to be able to set itself up and remain in place in a stable way. It now appears very clear that for Trump, all three of those aspects are faltering in a big way. I'm going to go through each of them and why this is very bad news indeed for Trump and his ability to establish a full-scale autocracy, after a quick word about this channel. I hope you're enjoying the video. As a psychiatrist who's fascinated by the worlds of politics and economics and philosophy, I love making these videos, and if you'd like to see more of them, then please do like and subscribe and comment in this video. What you'll find is that there's a beautiful community growing up around this channel. We're all going through a national and international trauma right now because of what's happening and where our leaders are taking us. And in this channel, you'll find people honestly sharing their situation and their distress, and other people responding with kindness, empathy, and compassion. So please join this wonderful community that we're forming, join in the comments and the dialogue that's happening. So, what are the three fundamental pillars of an autocracy? There are three things that make an autocracy able to exist and to remain in place. The first thing is the ability of the people to acquiesce. So what you need to do is make sure that the population is sufficiently suppressed, that they're afraid enough to not come out, to not protest, to not engage in activism against the administration itself. That's the first thing, and we'll look into that in a minute. The other thing is the ability of the military to comply, to go ahead with and do what is required of them from the regime. And the third thing is the ability of the administration to hold firm, to stay united, and to avoid any fractions whatsoever. Now, I've talked about each of these things in previous videos, and I looked at the time like Trump was building up and firming each of those bases. But right now, they're all in a very clear state of collapse. Let's look at the people and whether or not he can bring the people with them, enough people to keep this going. There was an excellent study by a Harvard scientist that looked at autocracies and autocratic rules around the world. And what they found is consistently, if you have about 3.5% of the population coming out to engage in activism against the regime, then the regime cannot survive. That was a consistent finding. When you had about 3.5% of the population out there and active against it, then they just couldn't govern. So there was no case in history where an autocracy has remained intact and has maintained its power when that amount of the population comes out. Now, we saw in the fantastic No Kings protests over the weekend that a very significant chunk of the population come out, and it was heading towards around 3%. So there's large numbers. Some estimates go up to 13 million, some sort of, a few million less than that. But either way, we're talking about something around 2%, a good number. So we're getting close to that at the moment. And if it was 13 million, then it would have been already past the 3.5% point. We don't know exactly, because the figures aren't completely accurately calculated. No one knows exactly, but we're either well on the way to that or already past that. So that shows that we're at a level of momentum in the population that will make it almost impossible for an autocracy to have its way and to prevent the public from engaging at least in some kind of activism, civil disobedience, to prevent its untrammeled exercise of power with a single authority. So that's a very good sign. That's one part of this sort of three-legged stool that's already down. The other is the military compliance. What they need is the military to be united and forceful enough to put down any resistance from the people and be prepared to use violence and to do so again and again in order to maintain its power. That relies on military compliance. Now, it hasn't actually been fully put to the test yet. If you remember, in Los Angeles, Trump tried to deploy the Marines. He sent the Marines down there, but they weren't able to do very much on site. There wasn't much engagement of the Marines in the actual protest itself in LA, because clearly their rules of engagement forbade them from doing that. Regulations like posse comitatus and other things made it very clear that actually US Marines and US military personnel are not allowed to engage directly in the business of law enforcement against US citizens. So they weren't actually engaged very much. They were a little bit, but not very much. The other thing we saw is this birthday parade, this farcical birthday parade Trump had over the weekend. Now, I made a little comical video about that the other day, in which I compared what Trump wanted, which is the sort of North Korea, China, Russia style, sort of grandiose, over-the-top military parade, compared to what he actually got, which was squeaky tanks, people marching slightly out of step, and folks holding drones in their hands. And there's lots of people saying, and people actually reporting from inside the military, that what seems to have happened here is that the military deliberately executed this in a way that was almost a little bit ridiculous in order to ridicule Trump. They didn't want to defy the order completely, but it was what's referred to as malicious compliance. In other words, while they were technically complying with what was requested of them, it was done in a malicious way that ended up actually defeating the object and making the person who made the order look ridiculous. And that's pretty much what seems to have happened. So this isn't certain, but we're getting some hints here of the military already resisting at this stage. So if it came to some major orders to fire on US citizens, to scare US citizens, to get directly engaged in a violent response to uprisings from the public, it doesn't look like they're on their way to doing that very much. So that is also looking positive. So that's two of the three pillars, two of the three legs of the stool already showing signs of being very rocky. The third one is unity within the administration itself, no dissent, absolute certainty that across the board, not just the administration, but all of its supporters and all of its outriders, all of its spokespeople, all of its surrogates are all going to be on board and be fully behind the regime in all matters. That is already clearly cracking in a big way. We saw the huge crack that occurred with Elon Musk, the way in which Elon Musk was prepared to go to DEFCON 5 and get completely nuclear within the space of a few hours, go all the way to accusing Trump of, well, we know what he's accusing him of if he's saying that he's in the Epstein files, right? So going all the way to accuse Trump of the most heinous and malicious behavior imaginable. So there's a clear crack in the administration there, and not just there, because with Trump's recent actions in alluding to the notion that America will support Israel in its bombing of Iran, this has created major fractures within the Trump outriders and supporters as well. Tucker Carlson, another big supporter of Trump, came out very strongly and aggressively against that, saying that this is the kind of thing the old Republican Party would do. This is going to waste a lot of money. This isn't really putting America first. And then that was then responded to and agreed by Marjorie Taylor Greene, who then tweeted out saying, yes, this is not putting America first. This is not what we voted for. This is not what the American people want or need. So again, two major figures in his support base, and they, of course, get millions of voices behind them who are clearly defying Trump's actions and willing to absolutely contradict him, challenge him, and put him down if necessary. And Trump, in turn, had to then put them down. So he said Tucker Carlson, he called him sort of kooky Carlson, saying that he doesn't even work for a network, so maybe we'll hear from him if and when he ever does. So there's real fractures occurring there with Elon Musk on the one side, and then Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Taylor Greene. So this is not a united front. This is not a firm wall of autocracy that needs to stand firm in order to suppress and subjugate the people. So all three of those legs, the activism and engagement of the people, or lack thereof, in order for an autocracy to survive, the compliance of the military, and the unity of the administration and all of its outriders and supporters, all of those things are already cracking in a big way. Now, what's really important, though, is that we do not get complacent about this. Because, you see, almost certainly, the reaction that Trump will have to seeing things crack around him is not one to sort of retire quietly, take his toys away, and sort of go quietly into the night. That's not Trump's style. We all know that, don't we? What Trump is likely to do is actually escalate further as a result. This will destabilize him. This will make him even more insecure than he already is, and so he's likely to start ratcheting things up. Even though his chance of success may be lower, the activity he engages in response to this will be higher. So almost certainly he's going to react to this by starting to do some even more outlandish, even more destructive, even more unimaginable things are likely to be down the path. And let's not also forget that although he's acting on instinct, he can only react the way he does because of the level of the depth of his insecurity. He will keep reacting in this way and keep raising the stakes and upping his game in this way. He's just acting on instincts, but there are people behind him who are acting on strategy, and that is Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, all of these tech bros who have the explicit and stated aim of bringing an end to democracy. They've stated that clearly, and I've discussed it in other videos. It's written down in documents that they have written, and articles they've written, and papers they've approved. So it's very clear that's their stated aim. So there is a whole cadre of people, including J.D. Vance, his vice president, whose desire is to bring about an end to democracy. So there's folks with a clear strategy to do this, and there's Trump with a clear instinct that is leading him down this path. And so that remains the case. And of course, where they have come to already is unprecedented in American history. So we can't cut them out. We can't be complacent. But the signs of the ability to this to actually succeed are very good in our favour in terms of hopefully can be defeated. But let's not get complacent. We need to be clear-eyed, just like pilots flying through the clouds where you can't really see where exactly you are. You need to rely on the instruments and keep very strong vigilance of all the instruments before you. We need to do that all the time. Just be very clear about exactly where we are. So where we are is in a place of hope, but certainly not in a place of complacency or certainty. But more power to the American people as they prepare for what there is ahead with the strength they have shown in the last few days. I hope you liked the video. I hope you also can join me with more of my content that I'm aiming to make over the coming months and years. You see, this time around, what we're experiencing in this administration is a global trauma, and the people going through it have been asking, how can we support ourselves? How can we learn and grow and share together through this process? So I've started to write a series of ebooks. That's together with my whole team. Once a month, we're going to produce an ebook to help us understand better the psychology of the people around us and the systems we're in, as well as our own psychology too, to help us navigate this increasingly confusing and disorientating world we find ourselves in. You'll be able to find those books on russellsbooks.com. That's russellsbooks.com. As soon as you go there, you'll be able to see the growing catalogue of books and hopefully buy any of them at any point. In addition, I hope you can subscribe to my e-newsletter. See, there's a link in the description of this video and also the description of the channel. And if you go there, you'll be able to fill out a form. Once you've completed the form, you'll then be able to get subscribed to my e-newsletter. And that way you can always be kept up to date about the content I'm producing. You see, the fact is that this platform, as well as all platforms, are owned by a very small number of oligarchs. And at any point, they might decide to shut down a channel like this. And if they do that, then, well, it's going to be hard for us to keep connecting. So if you sign up for my e-newsletter, that way you'll be able to make sure that you'll be informed about my content wherever it's delivered and wherever it lands. Finally, I hope you might also consider becoming a member of the channel. If you do, you'll get these ebooks for free every month. So all the ebooks I produce go free to my members who join the channel every month. Also, you can get priority response to comments, and there's also a members-only chat page for higher-level members that we engage in regularly to sort of learn, share, and support one another. As I say, this is a difficult time, it's a traumatic time in history, so many of us need support from each other. I'm hoping each of these things can help all of us create a better tomorrow together. Thank you.